Our sector and equality conferences are growing. That is a cause for celebration. It's not a pretext to rein them in. But last September, our NEC adopted a policy for these conferences that took control away from elected representatives of those groups and gave it to the union's SLT. Our sector and equalities reps were not consulted in the drafting of that policy. Some NEC members proposed taking time to consult members before deciding, but the majority insisted on an immediate vote. This decision caused outcry from members. So the NEC pulled back a bit, but its tweaks do not change the substance of the issue. The decision withdraws union funding and support from residential events for informal networks, even though last year's annual conference told the executive to do the exact opposite. We cannot allow the executive to go against conference decisions. The NEC decision allowed members to attend just one equality and one sector conference per year. This decision meant that, say, delegates to Black Educators Conference cannot be delegates to any other equality conference that year. So, Disabled Members Conference will be whiter, Post-16 Conference will be more teacher-dominated, etc. The executive suspended this rule after the pushback against it, but only for this year and with an option to reintroduce it next year. The NEC decision argues that there will be no point going to more than one conference because the conference's content will be the same. But the very reason we have these distinct conferences is because we have these distinct groups of members. This week we have opposed one-size-fits-all education conference. We do not need one-size-fits-all NEU sector and equality conferences. The NEC decision describes the conferences as a showcase for the union to tell members about its priority campaigns. But conference, this is the wrong way round. These conferences are about members to tell the union about their issues. Unless you pass this motion unamended, the Black Educators Conference will no longer be an event where black members highlight issues that affect them at work, and instead will become an event at which union leaders tell black educators how to support the union's campaigns. Conference, this is not how a member-led union works. Yes, equalities and sector delegates need to hear about the union's priorities, but we can do that on the other 363 days of the year. I concede a case for prioritising workplace reps for sector conferences, though that does seem unfair on, say, supply members who are not in a position to become reps. But for equality conferences, it may be precisely the person's experience of discrimination and disadvantage that has prevented them from becoming a rep. Prioritising existing reps means deprioritising potential reps. These conferences help members gain the knowledge and confidence to become reps. Why create a barrier to that? After the outcry, the executive decided to review its decision this summer, but there is no detail of how this review will be carried out. This motion proposes an open, inclusive discussion which will be much better than an unspecified review. It ensures that proposals come back to annual conference next year, which is where a decision of this significance belongs. You and your members might have ideas to improve our conferences. If you pass this motion, you'll get to propose those ideas to a consultation. If not, you won't. Conference, we all make mistakes. The executive has made a mistake on this. The executive is accountable to this conference and has to do what you tell it to. Please tell the executive that it made a mistake, rescind its poor decision, and tell it to run a democratic consultation to make our sector and equality conferences as effective as possible. Vote for the motion and against the amendment.
Janine has a right of reply as the mover of the original motion. Janine Booth, please.
Conference, I'd like to address a few points that were made in the speeches for the amendment and against the motion. First of all, there was the argument that as a union we need to focus on a few core issues. Conference, many of our members do not have the luxury of being able to focus on a few core issues because they are under attack on many different fronts. It was also stated that executive members represent members. Sure they do, but they're not telepathic. So if you don't give them any time to consult those members, then how can they accurately represent their views? It was also said that we can't wait another year for a consultation. Conference, yes, we can. Our sector and equality conferences are great as they are. We can take another year to have a proper, inclusive discussion about how to make them even better. Conference, it was said that these conferences need to be trade union events. Conference, they are trade union events. The delegates who go to them are trade unionists. The elected representatives of those sections are trade unionists. It is not just the union's SLT that gets to decide what is a trade union event. Conference, the decision that the executive passed, the paper it adopted, which this motion is asking you to rescind, warns us that, quote, each event runs the potential risk of damaging the reputation of the NEU. Really? How and why would sector and equality conferences embarrass this union? These conferences are something for us to be proud of, not ashamed of. Moreover, I'm not aware of this reputational concern extending to any other union events. What about your district meetings? Might they damage the union's reputation, or are we only going to single out our equality and sector conferences? Conference, what I believe would really damage the union's reputation is to allow its executive to impose a decision that severely restricts the rights of our sector and equality groups to run their own conferences. The key issue here is, should a significant decision like this be taken via a thorough democratic inclusive discussion or by a snap decision of the NEC? Please, conference, you've already defeated the amendment. Please vote through this motion.